Here we go. It's 11 o'clock. Thank everybody for attending the Liquor Control Board for today. We have several items on our agenda, and we'll start with agenda item number 1, approved minutes of the December 21st, 2022 regular meeting and the January 5th, 2023 special meeting. We have those in our packets, and if there are any changes or corrections, please let us know, but otherwise, if not, we will accept a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, review liquor applications. We have 3 of those. 2A is Slice LLC, doing business as Dwayne's House of Pizza, to be located at 1629 South University Drive, Class GH. I'm very concerned about this because this is my favorite pizza place in all of Fargo. I would highly recommend it, and I am concerned that they continue their high quality, and obviously it's a great place, and it's also a neighborhood area. So with that, Steve, get us started. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. So there is one other thing, maybe before we get into the liquor licenses. We had an agenda item that was requested to be added, and so I would like to have a motion that we add the agenda item for discussion purposes with no action taken, and that was to discuss some language changes to 2515-092.
Okay, so we'll add that onto the other items on number 5A. And so the language changes, is that what your intention? So
That's correct, yep.
So do you need to have us take a motion on that, or is that just will be added?
Yeah, for adding,
Okay.
adding an item to the agenda.
Okay,
So moved.
Okay.
we have a motion. Do you have a second?
I would second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I guess I just would add, when we add things to the agenda, just so the public has opportunity to see what's added. And so I think that's, and actually Steve and I have talked about this, for the city commission agendas, you have to have things in it ahead of time. And so we'll work on that and bring that forward to the board as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Steve, back to 2A.
Yes, so Dwayne's House of Pizza, Class GH, is a beer and wine license that requires 50% food sales. The Dwayne's House of Pizza, I'm sure everybody knows, read the paper, has been sold. All of the locations have been sold to other people that are going to operate them going forward. So this applicant is also going to be redoing the whole city block. And so, there's going to be significant changes in that area to address the commissioner's concerns regarding the taste and everything of the pizza. What is being purchased is the recipes and the ingredients and how to make the pizza. So should come out exactly the same as what you were enjoying before. With that, there are no issues in the background check. One owner and one manager, and came back clean with a recommendation from the police chief to approve the license.
Can I ask a question? So they have a liquor license. I'm a frequent customer, and I don't recall that they've served alcohol at that location. So am I mistaken?
No, you are correct. So at that location, the owner, a long time ago when I first started, they had a beer license, and they stopped renewing that. And so this is a new owner, and he wants to add the beer and the wine back to that location.
Well, as a customer, I would say I'm very pleased with that, and I wasn't aware of that, or I would have talked to the owner a long time ago to take advantage of that. But that was just, they had the license, but they just weren't using it? Does that happen sometimes?
Well, no, they actually did not renew the license. They had it for a few years during the time that I've been here, and then stopped renewing it, so they no longer had the license. Yep.
Okay, but the other thing that they will have to have server training, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions?
Just a quick question. Is the same person going to own all the Dwayne's? Or-
No. Each of the 3 Dwayne's, it's sort of like a franchise, so they're each buying the recipes. The one in Moorhead is a one group. The one at South University is a separate individual, and the one at Southtown, on 45th, is a different group. So It's more like we're buying the right to use the recipes and the name.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2B, Plaza Azteca 52 Incorporated, doing business as Plaza Azteca Mexican Restaurant, to be located at 5081 Timber Parkway South, Class FA. Steve?
Yes, thank you. So this is the Class FA, which is a food and alcohol license. It does require that that the food sales exceed the alcohol sales. It does allow the physical bar. This is the second location for Plaza Azteca here in Fargo, and they want to replicate exactly what they had at their first location. And so we've gone through the background check with the 4 owners, and there were no issues that were discovered. So it does come to the liquor board from the police chief with a recommendation of approval.
Very good. Any comments? I guess my question would be, so they have is there another one already in existence, or are they, can you talk a little bit about that? And has that one had a good track record?
Yes, so there is another location in existence, and they have been a great operator. We haven't had any issues.
And then the server training, then they're aware of that. And also the food and beverage mix, do you go through that with them to explain how that's reviewed and things like that?
Yes, so I'm trying to think. I think that they've gone through one audit period, and they weren't even nowhere close to. They were, I think, in the 80% food.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 2C, application to add a new owner to the Fargo Billiards LLC, doing business as Fargo Billiards and Gastropub, to be located at 3234 43rd Street South, Class FA Entertainment. Steve?
Yeah, so the FA Entertainment, the billiards, has been in existence for close to 10 years now. What they're doing is starting that transition of moving out of the ownership group. And so their longtime manager, they're bringing her in as an owner. Now, she did have some issues from a while back that are dated in her background check. And with the exception of their the background check, the criminal history part, the items are dated. On the credit check part, they're more recent, but related more to COVID and being closed and different things like that. They are addressing the credit history area.
And Steve, their record as far as following the rules and things like that with their license, have they had a good track record since they've been open?
Yes, absolutely. I can't think of a time when they failed a server or failed a compliance check. They have a different license that allows some different interactions that other licenses wouldn't allow. They have an area that is for under 21, and then you are allowed to go to the bar and bring a beer into that area. Obviously, the under 21 people can't drink, and then the rest of the area is licensed like a bar and operated like a bar. For their FA, FA Entertainment allows the food sales plus the rental sales of in this case, the pool tables and that type of stuff to meet that. So.
And off the top of your head, the FA, like their food ratio is, how is that? And have they been audited?
They are audited. Again, we use food and table rental to look at that. And they've never had any problems with the audits. They've always passed their audits. I think their food percentage is, I can't speak right off the top of my head exactly what that food percentage is without the table rentals.
And I guess to me, the other, we've talked about the background checks for ownership. to me, would this be a correct time to do it for all the ownership when we have an update?
And
Is
we
that-
did that, yes. We looked at Mike and Adele Page. The previous owners re-looked at their background to make sure there weren't any items, in the last 10 years. And then also did the background check on the other person.
No, that's great. We've talked about that as a group, that trying to do that more often. And to me,
Correct.
this is kind of an opportunity to do everybody when they're coming through. So thank you for doing that ahead of time. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment just about the investigation notes, and this is really more for the description of those conversations. I'm seeing some items in here that are really irrelevant, like the owner saying that her feelings about law enforcement, that she appreciates, those are not relevant to our recommendation, and I don't think they're relevant to yours, to the police department's recommendation to us. So I would say if we could please try to keep the investigation notes to things that deal with those specific events, I'd appreciate that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is the Police Department Monthly Report, the General Report. Sorry for not giving you a heads up. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. As I was discussing earlier, is a little slim on the report this period, but a couple of things that I do think we need to take note of. One, and that's a positive interaction with the sports bar where they were able to notice and identify a fake ID and called us so that we could deal with that appropriately. A lot of times that's not the case with some of our local establishments, so we really appreciate the partnership with that. The other ones that again kind of are becoming a pattern of behavior are the ones that are dealing with the windbreak bar. But I know that you guys are very aware of some of the issues that we're dealing with them. And I think that you're also working towards some ordinance language and whatnot to help us deal with that. So Chief Cebulski did also, as part of the last discussion about your year-end statistics, he does have that prepared. That was also part of the discussion. I wasn't sure if you had that ahead of time so that you would be able to digest all that and ask questions as a follow-up. So I do have that if you want that, but it seemed like the preference might be that you would get that ahead of time so that you could review it, digest it, and then we could cover that with you to provide context.
That'd be great. We'd appreciate that, to give us a little bit of time to review it, and then we'll probably have better questions. And the other thing, the topic about the windbreak, obviously it's repetitive, and the chief and I met with them over a year ago, and they're still showing up almost on every one of our reports. So I believe at our next meeting, we're going to be addressing that, just so the members are aware. We're going to proceed methodically, but we have to do something because obviously they're not responding. And so we have lots of options, but we want to make sure that we do so correctly. So the city staff at our next meeting will have, I believe it'll be on our agenda with some different things, how we proceed forward. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll arm you with good data so that you can make decisions based off of that, and we'll get that in your hands ahead of time so that
great.
you're fully prepared.
Thank you. Any other questions? But otherwise, at our next liquor control, we'll have kind of the same topic, and very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I appreciate, we all get the information emailed to all of us, and so we can review them. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, and now we're moving on to number 4, memo for recommending ordinance changes. And 4A is recommendation to require owner-manager changes and recording requirements. Steve?
So we've had this on the agenda a number of different times. I think at first maybe back in November. We brought it back, I believe, in December, and then I wonder if we had people that were gone or something like that. So anyway, we're bringing it back forward again today. I did include in the packet comments that I received from one business regarding the implementation of some of the requirements that we had. So So I don't know if anybody has any questions on this or comments that they want to make.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, we're talking specifically just about the recording of names, et cetera, right? Not the whole ordinance change.
Well, what we would be doing is directing the city attorney to prepare the ordinance changes, so they could come back here before they go to the city commission. The question, I think, is, are the changes that have been proposed the ones that you are happy with, or are they the ones you want to see? So I think the biggest things to me are, as the chief has proposed in the past, the one that affects my office anyway the most is the manager changes, where we're not being notified of the manager changes, and then likewise we're not doing any background checks on the managers. The chief would also like to move forward with background checks annually on the owners. We may have some difficulty with that and just getting that implemented. Again, I think as it was proposed, we were talking about doing annual background checks on the owners, and then notification if there's a manager change, and then doing a background check on the manager, and then also the amount of time if we discover that the change or that there was a change and we weren't notified, that what those steps were for getting that notification, getting that background check done, and the penalties for not if you didn't follow through with that.
So Steve, my main concern, I do think that to know who the manager is, that's very important for the city staff, but also for law enforcement. And so I do think it's reasonable to request that. As far as the amount of time, to me, that's the question, and the penalty. Those are the things. From my perspective, I fully support that, because I think it's very important for public safety and for just from the perspective of the city knowing who to contact if something happened, if there was an emergency. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's one thing when we're talking about local ownership, because for the most part we know who the owners are, and so if it's local ownership and an event happens, and we try to reach out to the manager and maybe that person isn't available or they've changed, we still know who that local owner is, and we can get in touch with them. Ultimately, it's their license that would be at risk, or anything like that. The ones that are frustrating are when we have a chain or somebody with outside or out of town ownership, and we don't have a way to communicate with them. And the communication seems to be through an email or something like that, and those are the ones that seem to be the most frustrating. And so I would like to be able to have something in place so that they're required to let us know who that owner or who that new manager is when the management changes. So I think maybe at this point, if we could just get the motion to direct the city attorney to prepare the changes, and then we would have something concrete to look at. And so we can bring that back, and then we can have more discussion with, I think that this part is reasonable, but this part is maybe overstepping, or, that type of thing.
And
I was going
Go
to
ahead.
say, I agree, Steve. That was kind of my question. I think everybody here through previous meetings, I don't want to speak for everybody, I think we're pretty favorable about this part. But there were some other parts that came up. For example, one that I had a concern with was the requiring the server training before they actually work their first shift. And I was wondering if by then we would have, the computer version of server training there, et cetera. Because I think that is going to be tough government on the trade.
Well, I can give you an update on the server training. This body recommended the changes to the server training ordinance, which we brought to the city commission, and the city commission passed. And so as of today, I can report that all server training is online. And they are required to have server training, basically, like you said, before their first shift. So when you come in to do your onboarding paperwork, what I've heard from the industry is that they're then signing the person up and taking the class before they go out on the floor.
Okay, good. I
Yeah.
was not aware of that.
Yep. So it's all online now, and the response that we've gotten from the industry has been very positive. There have been some questions, which obviously we expected. We were able to answer those questions and and move forward. So
Okay.
the last in-person server training class, I believe, is I think it's 23rd. So it's either like Monday or Tuesday of next week, and after that, there are no more in-person classes. That,
Excellent.
again, that server training is offered through the North Dakota Safety Council and currently being funded by a grant, so it's currently free. And so our recommendation to anybody that wasn't sure if they're up to date on their server training is just take the course, and it's free. Takes an hour and you're done, and then you have your server training current.
That's
So
great.
go ahead. The other thing to get back, if we approve your motion, basically it will come back to us at our next meeting, but also then it would have an opportunity for people to comment on it, and also so for the public to see. Is that kind of what the next steps are?
Yes, well, there would be an interim step in there. We would go to the city commission because, we'd go to the city commission to direct the change. Then, and then Nancy would prepare those changes. Then we can bring those back here for discussion to see, is this what we want to bring back to the city commission? Or, are we overreaching here, or we're not tough enough here? Are those penalties appropriate? Those types of things. I did get one comment from the industry, and their concern was that even though they're the licensee is the one at risk, if they want to hire somebody, the city shouldn't be. I'm paraphrasing his email. The city shouldn't be telling him who he can and who he can't hire as a manager. So, for instance, he said this industry has a lot of people that maybe have a little bit of a checkered background, but they're giving them chances. So if he's had an employee that's worked for them for 10 years and he wants to give them an opportunity to be a manager, it really shouldn't be the city that's telling them that they can't be the manager. And again, I'm paraphrasing his comments. However, I do think it's still appropriate for the city to get notification, do the background check, and then let them know, hey, here's the stuff that's in their background. Now, if you want to use that person, go ahead. But I've seen at times in the past where we do the background check and there's stuff in there that the other partner wasn't aware of, and they end up not going forward in business. And so, I just think it just becomes an opportunity for everybody to be aware of what's going on. So.
I wanted to thank the business owner for reaching out with this thoughtful email. And what it really, one of their points about, we want people who, if they committed crimes and they're now back in society, that we need to give them pathways to make a good living. And that shouldn't, we shouldn't be discriminating against them for that. And I think we kind of try to hit this, we have a range that we're looking at. So, we're only really considering things from a certain interval prior to them in this position. And I know my personal feeling is that when we're talking about people in management roles, personally, I'm more interested in hearing about if they committed crimes of the civil variety, if they engaged in wage theft or various types of fraud. So I think that our criminal background check is only doing part of the job, and I think that it loses some of the most important things about when we're hiring people in these positions. But I really appreciate this thoughtful email, and I agree that I think we need to, we have to be considerate of people who are trying to make a living.
Any other comments? Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, Steve kind of gave us a recommended motion. If you're willing to proceed with that, we will accept a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. 4B, request from Fargo Park District to add FA Golf to seasonal licenses under 25-1507H. Steve.
So 25-1507H does list a series of licenses that can be issued on a seasonal basis. One that is probably appropriate to be a seasonal license because it's a seasonal event is the FA Golf. It is not currently listed in that section as one that can be listed or issued for a seasonal, on a seasonal basis. And so the Park District has made the request that the city consider making that amendment, adding that license class to that provision that allows them to be issued seasonally.
Steve, can I ask you a question? So obviously, I think the golf courses have had a tough time with the businesses staying in business that rent their, so can you talk a little bit about that? And then would this make it easier for them to exist? Are the costs less? But my other concern is then how are we still going to be able to monitor that there's, following the food ratios and things like that?
Yes, so a number of issues there. So I want to start with the only license that we are issuing seasonally right now is the FM Redhawks. And in the ordinance, it does call for that license to be issued no less than 6 months. So what we do is we prorate the cost. So we get the cost down to, if it's a 6-month license, the cost goes in half. They still have to follow all of the provisions of their license class. So when we talk about the food to alcohol ratio with the Park District and the golf course licenses, during the active golf season, they're required to do 25% food. It's during the non-golf season that their food percentage jumps up to 50%. And that seems to be the time, not only are the number of people coming to visit their establishments dropping substantially in the winter, but now they're having to meet a much higher food sales. So I feel like this change would assist the Park District in being able to have a manager or an operator at those facilities, in a way that'll make it successful for the operator and still meet all of our requirements.
Any other comments or questions? It's just been an issue. I mean, we want, obviously, we want to support the Park District, and just from my own observation, a lot of the businesses have really struggled, like at Edgewood, where we've had multiple owners. There's lots of turnover because I just think they have a tough time making it profitable when they're renting the space from the Park District. Is that a good way to explain it?
I think so. I would love to see, the state to allow municipalities or municipal subs to own and operate a license in cases like this. But we've done the research and gone back, and I think it goes back into the 1960s or even the 50s. And there's a Supreme Court case at the state that says that municipal subs can't have a liquor license in the state of North Dakota. So it makes it challenging for us. Even at the Fargo Dome, the city of Fargo does not own the liquor license. That the Fargo Dome contracts with somebody that owns that liquor license. Right. And so, it seems like what you're doing is just doing a workaround. But again, we have a Supreme Court case that says, hey, hands off, you can't do it. So we have to find a way that makes it work. And this is what the Park District has done, is try to find vendors to come in, operate the restaurant part, provide the food sales, but also do the alcohol in a responsible manner.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we have a recommended motion, if somebody's willing to make that.
Yeah, I'll recommend that.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 4C, direct the city attorney to prepare prepare ordinance changes addressing self-serve dispensing. Steve.
And so this is a direct relation to the liquor license that we approved for Crafty Taps. We had an operations agreement with them to go along with that license issue. Because of their location and methodology, we're probably never going to be able to get rid of that operations agreement, but we've been told we have other self-serve dispensing taps in town, and so we feel like there is some regulation out there that we could add to our ordinances that would address all of those facilities. So the people that put it in without us having knowledge of them, what we're doing is we're catching up to technology with these new ordinances. So we would like to, get that in place and see if we can address that operation accordingly.
Very good. We have kind of the information there. And so if there are anybody have any comments or questions about it?
I have a question about, as this is kind of like a new kind of place, in the interest of keeping an eye on disturbances or, what's going on there, if there was a disturbance in the food court, from a patron of that business, would it make it onto our incident sheets that we get?
So the incident sheets are times when police have been called. So if police get called there for an alcohol-related disturbance in the food court, it'll make it onto your sheets. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
So then otherwise, if we want to find out if there's instances, then we need to contact West Acres Security or have an arrangement with them. I mean,
Oh, you mean if
there's
if PD isn't called?
yeah.
I guess I don't have a direct answer for you, but I would assume that if West Acres Security is if it becomes a regular occurrence, that they will address it with their tenant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we have a recommended motion if we're willing to make that.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The last item on the agenda is the language changes discussion. Steve?
So after I'd sent out the agenda, there was a request to add this item to the agenda. I've been advised by our city attorney that once the agenda is out, we need to modify, we can talk about it, but we can't take action. And that's because the public sees the agenda, and if there's something on there that they're not aware of, they're not prepared to come and discuss it. So really, this agenda item came from Lydia, and if you want to address it, I think that'd probably be the most appropriate.
Sure, and thanks, Steve, and sorry if I sent it after the agenda went out, I must have missed that, so thank you. So basically, we were provided with a list of ordinance changes that were kind of being requested, and we talked about them at a brown bag lunch. I've chosen, I believe, 2 of them that I think are pretty straightforward and require not too many big changes, and we can continue to discuss some of the other ones at perhaps the next meeting. But these are directly from the recommendations that were made to us. I requested one change to the section about expanding some of the evidence, some types of evidence for intoxication. But other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same as what was recommended. So there's 2 changes. One is to add including to being intoxicated and or impaired in case if it's due to a variety of things. And then second, expanding the descriptions of someone who is likely to be impaired.
And as Lydia said, this was discussed previously at the brown bag. And so we're not going to take a motion today, but I will make sure that this is on the agenda for the next meeting. And if there's any questions at that time, we can address those and then make a motion to direct city attorney to prepare the ordinance changes.
That sound good? If that's okay, so we really don't need to take action, but it will be on our next agenda. And so then that's when the time we'll have opportunity for the public to comment and industry and things like that, so.
Correct.
Okay, is that okay with everybody? Very good. So that's the last item on the agenda. So thank everybody for attending. Have a great day, and hopefully the sun will come out at some point in some warm weather. We are adjourned.